Hello and welcome to the Happy You're Here podcast. Today we have Mark Kumar, who is a lifestyle entrepreneur who helps entrepreneurs run profitable online businesses by sharing their own advice. So thanks for joining us, Mark. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Oh, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. It truly is a pleasure. I know we're going to have a really good conversation that's going to help your listeners take their business to the next level. So, just a little bit about myself. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, and those of you who may not know what a lifestyle entrepreneur is, it's a person who is in the industry that he actually absolutely loves and then creates a business out of that. Rather than loving your business, you love what you do and you create a business out of that. So I have been to 4 different industries. The very first one was the photography industry, which is a very interesting story because I got myself a camera for one Christmas present, and then I fell in love with photography, started taking pictures, and then sooner or later my family member found out that, like, hey, Mark has a camera and he is a professional photographer. I'm like, I am not a professional photographer. I just have a camera that looks like professional. That's about it. But I am no means possible a professional photographer. But like the thing goes, if it looks like professional, you must be a professional. So then my family members start telling other people like, hey, Mark is a professional photographer. If you need a photographer, hire him. And at that time, I had no experience whatsoever, other than the fact that I had like a decent regular, I think it was a Canon Rebel XTR or XT something. And that's all I had. And then one day I get a call from a friend of my family member saying, hey, we want to hire you for our event. And that's the sound that everyone wants to hear. I want to hire you, meaning I want to give you money, come provide your services.
Yeah.
And the very first thing that came to my mind was like, wow, first of all, wow, amazing. That was the first thing. Second thing was like, I'm scared like there is no tomorrow because I don't know what I'm doing and I don't have any skills. So I get to this mindset like I am not good enough. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to take good pictures. The light is gonna be good. I'm scared out of my blah blah blah, and I don't know what I'm gonna be doing. So I'm like, okay, I'm glad that they fired me, and then I will go there, do my best, and that's all. That was my plan. So I went there, did my best, and while I was taking pictures, at one point I caught myself. I was like literally a kid in a candy store. And that's when I realized, like, wow, if I could do this 7 days a week or however many days that I want to work, that would be so amazing. And that's what I did. That's what the whole entrepreneurial bug got planted in my head. I'm like, I want to learn how to do this. So from that point on, I started actually going to a courses where professional photographers taught me how to pose and everything else. So I did that. I took a lot of courses online, and then accumulated all this knowledge. I'm like, I'm not do something. So first thing what I did was I went into the portrait photography world where I took pictures of the people, and then I went to wedding, and then I went to fashion. So all that photography was like accumulation of so much knowledge, and I was so successful, and I loved it every second of it. It was amazing. And I was like, this is great, man. I want to continue to do this. And then what I wanted to do was like, I was doing all of that, but I didn't have a website
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever. And then I was like, this is great. I'm going to people, showing my wedding albums, like, hey, here's my wedding album, here's my work, but it has to be a better and easier way to showcase your website, I mean, your work. They're like, okay, I need a website. And then that's where the next industry came in, where I literally taught myself a HTML, JavaScript, CSS. I'm talking ground up, not WordPress one, like literally from scratch. And then for some odd reason, even though I was really good at photography, when I went to a different industry, I got to the point where like I'm feeling this feeling again. It's like, what makes me the person who is like can do this stuff, can create a website, like this imposter syndrome or negative symptom,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. Like, what gives me, who gives me the right, the power, authority to say you can do it? And that I went through a couple of months with that. I'm like, I don't know, because I'm like, I can hire somebody and they will do it because they're professional. I am not professional by all means. I don't know anything. So at that point, I realized, like, it's like you have a blank canvas. You could literally paint anything with it, on it. And then I was like, okay, I realized that I don't know, but if I could just literally learn one thing one day and continue that, and I will know a lot more in the next 60 days than some of the professionals who've been doing it. That's when I was like, I'm gonna go full blown in it. And that's when I started learning it. Every single day I would just literally sit behind the computer, type it away, programming and learning and watching YouTube videos literally, and then also taking the
Yeah.
courses online and then Udemy and all those things, and then actually went on a one-on-one session with the coaching session. So I was like, if I want to get ahead in life, why not hire somebody who's already there who could teach me all the secrets? I was
Right.
like, yeah, so that's what it is. So I'm like, wow. So I learned how to create all the website and everything else within like 6 months, I think, which is great. And then at that time, same thing happened to my uh, website world. What happened in photography? Hey, Mark knows about computer. He could build your website. I'm like, okay, great. So I did that. So the point being is like because I was like 4 different industry, every single industry that I went to, I have noticed not only just with myself, other people, it's the same pattern. The pattern is like one, when you decided like I want to go in here, the first next thing that comes up is like, hey, I am not good enough. Who gives me the authority? The one thing that I noticed is like you are the only one who's gonna give you the authority, the power, the right to say you are good enough to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's true in so many different ways, and that applies to more than just business. I mean, we all kind of deal with that imposter syndrome quite a bit. And, I think that not all the listeners of this show are necessarily entrepreneurs, but I think that you can still learn a lot from that kind of, I want to learn something, and like, what gives me the right to know about that thing? It's to just the effort that you put in to go learn that thing. And it's like, we're very lucky that it's all accessible to us these days. So, I'm really interested in your health journey that you went through also, and then you talked about developing a system and kind of how you came to develop that kind of systematic thinking.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a really good question, and I'm so glad you asked that, because that process alone was like crucial to my personal development. Because people, like you said, someone who are business people, they may not relate to it, but the personal level, it's the same damn system. So
Yeah.
because I was sitting behind the computer for like 8, 10, 12 hours per day, 7 days a week, I started to gain a lot of weight. I'm talking, I went up to 270 pounds, and I was wearing 2XL shirt and 42 size pants. And if you ever been that big, you know it is not easy to move around. And my one meal while I was at that weight was an extra large pepperoni and 2 liter of Coke with 10 wings and 10 barbecue wings on the side. That was one meal. Imagine eating that meal 3 times a day. Like your arteries, your heart rate, like
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, like one time I got to the point where like I was having a hard time trying to breathe, walk around, just do normal things, whatever. And then finally decided that I'm gonna go and get healthy. Went to the gym. The trainer asked me a basic questions to saying like, what is your family history, so on and so forth. I tell that person, and then she said that if you continue on this path, you're gonna cut literally 10 years off your life, and you are going to become diabetic just like your parents, because my parents have diabetes.
Hmm.
And at that point, that scared the hell out of me. I'm like, I do want to shorten my life just because of this silly food that I like. I'm willing to give that up. So at that point, I went in there and decided with the same mindset. It's like this pattern, like I said. Once you go in there, when you decide it, first few days, let's say first 2 weeks, you are really fired up. You're motivated because that's something new. You haven't tried it. You're like, yes, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And then after the motivation level goes down, that's when the reality sets in, because that's when you actually have to put in the work. and put in the work, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The key thing that I learned was that the thing that doesn't work, don't develop on it. Just let it go. Because that's what life is. You're gonna fail more times than you succeed. But when you finally do succeed,
Right.
the accumulation of all those failures, they're gonna add up so much that when you succeed, you're gonna succeed so big that you won't even realize it. It's like, wow. And people are gonna be like, yeah, that guy, he's a successful person. I'm like, yeah, I'm successful right now. But when I was putting in the trenches, putting the hard work, failing every single day and not knowing
Yeah.
if I'm gonna get to where I am, it's like, damn. So that's what it was.
I think it's really hard to get people to understand that sometimes. I mean, I see that from the perspective of, I feel like a lot of my whole thing is living a fulfilled life, right? And I feel that I'm there now pretty consistently most of the time, but I definitely was not. I struggled with addiction. I struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts and things. And people don't see that. They see me now and they're like, well, you're just a happy person. So that's not fair. You can't give me advice on how to get to that point. And it's like, no, I was there. And some of these people that, I'm talking to, I was like, I was in a much darker place than you are right now. Like, trust me, if you put in the work, you can get out of it. You just have to choose to do that. And it's hard whenever I think once you've had a couple of those things under your belt where you've done something that you didn't know how to do, and then you learned how to do it, you realize how those failures, build you towards whatever your goal is that you're going towards. And then it's easier to replicate that in a different space in your life. But when it's, the first time you're doing that, maybe you've just kind of coasted through life to this point, then it's really hard, especially the older you get, to make that transition. And it's really it's the growth mindset, right? It's that mindset difference.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because the mindset is the only thing and the very first thing that needs to happen. Because if you don't have the mindset, you will never move forward. And that's why there are plenty of people out there in the world who are so negative, who are so looks at life so negatively in their own life, but also they literally infect that particular disease and the negativity disease to others because they didn't succeed for whatever reason, whether they were lazy or the limitation or they didn't have the right mindset or the resources at the time. Then they were like, hey, if I can't do it, you can't do it either. But the other person who's trying to do it, they don't know their resources. They don't know their capability. The fine example I can give you is that, for example, let's say from New York to LA, a person goes let's just personalize a little bit more. So let's say if I go from New York, take a plane and go to LA and fly there. If I go to the check-in counter and the check-in counter, the agent behind it gave me the meanest look and was so rude, and starting from that point on, I'm gonna have a bad experience. Like that agent was horrible. So if I'm really positive person, I may ignore it. But some people are like, yeah, I'm just gonna have a horrible time for now. Let's say you go to your check-in line where your security is, right? And then the person who scanned you, they gave you a mean look as well. From that point on, you're like, oh my God, it's just not a good experience at this point. Then you go wait in the line to get in the plane. And then when you hand in your ticket, you're smiling. And the agent at that point maybe had a bad day or whatever the case is. They may not be like, hey, give me your ticket, off you go. Literally, how rude would that be? Although they may not say it, but I'm just saying, hypothetical speaking, they say give me your ticket, off you go. Then you go into the plane. And then at that point, if I ask you, how do you think my experience is during that time? From the time I enter in the airport, by the time I'm going into the airplane, horrible. The ticket agent was horrible. The security guard was horrible. The lady who checked me is so therefore I will never fly in that stupid airplane. That's what I would tell everybody else. That's generalizing the whole thing. That's what most people do. At least 65% of people, they generalize the whole thing. Like, hey, I felt because, I had a bad experience, you should totally boycott that particular airline because you are going to have the bad experience as well. But they don't realize is it's possible that those three people who you encounter, they just had a bad day. They just didn't know how to do it. So therefore,
yeah, so much of it is luck, right? And if you get unlucky a few times in a row, if you allow that to beat you up and just make you give up, then you're going to go through life being jaded. And I see that a lot in the film industry. I used to work as a filmmaker and made some movies and stuff. And like there are so many jaded people in that industry. And I left because I felt like I was starting to become one of them, because I had some wins, and then I had a series of like 3 or 4 pretty big losses, big projects that fell apart that, money was involved with and stuff. And I was like really feeling myself getting jaded and kind of like angry about the work, and I wasn't enjoying it anymore. So it was like, okay, I just need to leave this. Because I realized that, but so many people don't. So many people will sit there and they will tell every young filmmaker that this industry sucks, and so everyone's there to screw you over, and no one knows how to do any real hard work, and like blah 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 blah, which is just not true. There's plenty of people like that, and there's plenty of people that are willing to try to take your money and stuff. But
what I want to point at is like, I'm so glad
yeah,
you said that, because not that validates it. It's just not one industry. That's human kind all
oh,
across. Doesn't
absolutely,
matter.
yeah,
No matter whether you're in the film industry, photography, software, it doesn't matter. It's in every single industry. So the next question that begs to be asked is like, what do you do about it when you encounter that person? What I did was, when I was like going through the process, is like, hey, I'm gonna ask you one question and one question only. And then after that, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut and sit back and let you finish give me the answer to that specific question. Let's say you told me that you are not going to fail. I mean, you are going to fail in that industry or whatever that thing is. Like, first thing was like, why do you feel like I'm going to fail? And then I don't say anything, and I sit back and relax. And then whatever that comes out of their mouth is going to be solely based on their personal experience. Whatever failure it is, which is a good thing. So that way you know what not to do.
exactly, yeah.
Exactly right. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 would be like, give me one good reason why I would succeed. And then you shut your mouth, sit back, relax. What that's gonna do for the person who's negative, they're gonna have to shift their mind, going from negative to the positive direction.
Yeah, I love that.
And then also the next time something happened, they would start telling you like, hey, you're going to fail, blah, 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 blah. But remember, Joe, last time we had this conversation and I asked you, give me one good reason why I would succeed. And you flip that on them. I call it flip the script. And that's why I will succeed. And that person will shut up, because no one wants to be wrong. No one's going to say, like, I was wrong. No one's going to say that. So they're just going to shut up, and then you can move forward far, far quicker than if you just have to deal with that person.
It's an interesting way to get around the negativity bias. I mean, humans have that negativity bias, and some of us are more susceptible to it than others. And, some of us, the longer you allow that to dominate you, the stronger and stronger it gets. And positivity is kind of the same way. It's like edging this like trench in your mind where the neurons are firing, So it's practice.
I really want to point that out, because I'm so glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
because the whole pattern thing, it doesn't matter whether it's a negative or a positive. Repetition of anything, it will continue. For example, if you're a negative person and somebody who's a positive person, what's the difference? They're repeating the same thing. They're repeating the positive, positive, positive. The negative person repeating it, negative, negative, negative. So if you have the option or the choice to repeat, which one would you do? You would do the one that's going to help you move towards your goal. And how would you know if you're moving towards your goal? Let's say your goal is to, I don't know, I'm just going to pick a different industry, film industry, for example. I want to finish my film by X amount of date. Let's just say January, you started. I want to have a first scene or take or whatever you want to call that done by March. Come February, are you getting close to getting done? If not, do something else that will help you move forward.
Right. Yeah, I like how you talked about when you were learning the computer programming, or building websites, how you broke that down into, if I learn something every day, because I think that's a lot of times anything that you're learning that's new can feel overwhelming, or any big project that you're working on, right?
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah, can I do a case study with you? Because I love this part of it. Give me an example,
Absolutely.
And then I'll break it down for you step by step. How do you actually accomplish that to make sure that you move forward, number 1, and number 2, you're happy by the time you get there?
That's interesting. It's hard for me to think off the top of my head about something big that I've not already done that.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Let's just make something up. Let's say, trying to think of something that's not necessarily business related, just to give it a broader context. Like, let's say I want to find employment. Let's say I don't have a job and I want to find a job. That's kind of a challenge for either of us to think about, since both of us probably work for ourselves mostly. But I think that's an interesting concept. How would we help someone like that break that into more manageable steps?
So let me ask you this question. Do you want to find a job or do you want to start a business?
Let's say someone wants to find a job, because I want to see how you react to that challenge.
Okay, no problem. I love these. This is like that really gets me off. So let's say you want to find a job, right?
Yeah.
So number one thing you want to do is like, what are you good at? What are you really, really good at? So what I do is I will put you to this midnight test, is what I call. So basically what it means is, let's just say, what job do you want to look for? Let's get very specific because I love this.
Yeah, let's say I want to help people. I want a job where I can help people.
With what?
I like to help people with maybe addiction problems.
Addiction problem. Awesome. Great. So that's perfect. So now we're getting very specific. So let's say the midnight test. If you could pass this midnight test, you can get a job very quickly. The midnight test would be, are you really good at that? If I wake you up in the middle of the night and ask you, I have an addiction problem. I cannot seem to quit. I have tried everything. What can I do? What's the answer you will give? You have 30 seconds. You
Well,
can make stuff up,
you
doesn't
have to
matter.
decide that you want to quit. But yeah, it's a good first step. That's the first step. And then you have to
So
quit. Find help.
So whatever answer you give,
Yeah.
and that is midnight test, meaning if I wake you up in the middle of the night and the first thing you're gonna do is obviously rub your eyes like, what the hell?
Yeah, right.
What are you talking about? Like whatever. And after you get over that first 10 seconds, then you're like, okay, Mark, this is what you do. Step 1, step 2, step
Yeah, right.
3, step 4, boom. That's when you know you are really good at that skill.
Sure.
And then from that point on, we can go on to finding a job. So next thing will be like, hey, I know you want to help people get over their addiction. What have you done in the past where people can validate that whatever technique or skills that you have, they got result? Because this result is the only thing people are after.
Right.
So
Yeah, I
step
find
number
that,
two.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to
Oh,
step
I was
number
going to say
two,
that's
your
so important
skill.
whether you're, there's definitely a delay going on. It's so important whether you're looking for a job or you're looking to improve. If you're trying to get other people on board with something, whether you're trying to start your own business or whether you're trying to find employment, it's like, how do you prove, what have I done? You know, and it doesn't have to be big. It could be small. If you're starting small, like, what have I done? Because that result, if you can show someone, that will then pay you to replicate that result and then build on it.
Exactly. And then if you have, let's say, 5 people who have gotten result based on your system, you could say, or whatever you want to call it, we'll just call it system for now. And then those people, the wealth of knowledge that you help them with, you can find a job by going to LinkedIn, obviously, because that's where all the people are. And right now in
Yeah.
time, I think because of the time that we are currently living in, this whole pandemic thing, it probably would be better if you start your online coaching program, because that way you can help a lot of people, as compared to when you go to business, you be a little more challenging, but it's possible. So LinkedIn definitely will be the very first resources you want to tap into it. And, go and look for where people are in the same industry. And let's say you found somebody named Joe Schmo and he's in the industry of substance abuse and he's a VP or something. Last thing you want to do is go to Joe Schmo. Hey, by the way, my name is Mark Kumar. I help people with substance abuse. Here's my resume. It's like, okay, I don't know you, first of all. Second of all, nice.
Right.
To put things in perspective for you, let's say you and your girlfriend are going on a walk and you're having a great time. Your relationship is great. And all of a sudden, some guy comes up to you and say, hey, give me $10. I need it right now. What's the first thing that's going to come to your mind?
Yeah, like what? Why?
Exactly. So you don't want to do that. So basically, on LinkedIn, if you look for a job, especially this is what you want to do. Hey, my name is Mark Kumar, and I am XXS. It was really nice meeting you. I mean, it's not nice meeting because you haven't met that person. You can say, my name is Mark Kumar. I help individuals with substance use. I just want to say hello. You leave it at that. If you have some time, maybe I can pick your brain on something, your expertise. You don't ask for anything. And then at that point, person like, oh,
Right.
okay, Marcus, blah, blah, blah. And then next phase, if that person responds back to you, and let's be real, let's say you send 10 messages out of the 10, don't expect to get a reply for all 10. Like hypothetically speaking, if you're really
That
lucky
was
if you get
fun.
10 response. Yeah, if you out of 10, if you get 2, that's a great start because the other
Yeah.
8 who did not respond, they're probably not a good fit. The people who did respond to you, respond back to them, and then open the dialogue. It's like it's like what I said. Open a dialogue is like going on a date. When the first time you go meet somebody in person, you don't know that person and they don't know you, which is a
Right.
very good thing because at that point in time, both of you have respect each other and trust each other to some degree, a mutual trust, you could say, which is great. And then if when you go on your first date, right? And then what happens is the actions and the words that you use that will help you either make a mega credibility or diminish your credibility. Meaning, let's say you are saying, I will give you an example of the going on a date one. My name is Joe and I'm dating Jennifer. I don't know, hypothetically speaking. And I say, hey Jennifer, how you doing? You look nice, right? It's very compliment. I mean, very complimentary statement. And then Jennifer says,
Mhm.
thank you. And then after, as soon as I say, you look nice, and then I look back like, whatever, and she sees me. I'm saying one thing, but body language is saying another, which is my
Yeah.
action. She's gonna say, this guy's fake. He doesn't literally means what he says. So the best thing or the fastest way for you to build your mega credibility, just do what you say you're going to do. Simple as that. If you cannot do it, say that too, because the negative will also help you build your mega credibility. Because what happens is like, let's say if you ask me to do something, let's say meet you on a Sunday afternoon sometime, I was like, hey, that would be nice, but I can't do it because I have something else in mind, or I have some other plans, something happen. I cannot meet you, but I can meet you on the following Friday. At that point, you're gonna be like, hey, I understand, you say you can, but let's see what happens Friday. And next Friday, I show up. At that point in your mind, I'm like, hey, Marcus reliable. So going back to the whole LinkedIn thing, so you
Right.
tell the person who are you talking to, two people, hey, conversation wise. So let's say if you want to meet them or send them any attachment or documents or anything, whatever time frame you tell them that you're going to tell them, you're going to send it, make sure you do that because that's going to help you build your mega credibility.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that's that's
That's such a
starting.
small, that's such a huge thing. Like it, I mean, in general in life, like if you want people to like you, do what you say you're going to do, which sounds like such common sense, but I think there's a lot of ways that a lot of us, even in small ways, don't do that and don't. Some of us don't realize it. Some of us maybe do, and it's something we're working on. But there's definitely people that I know that will say, yeah, we'll meet you. Like the worst thing you can do is waste someone's time. That's terrible. Like if you say like, hey, let's block off this time. Let's hang out Friday, even if it's just friends, right? Right. Let's hang out Friday night. You block off Friday night. You tell other people that you don't want to hang out because you're going to hang out with so and then so doesn't show up on Friday, and it's like, cool. Well, I could have been hanging. I could have. Yeah, I had other things I could be doing. That's
Right.
terrible, and you should never do that to your friends. But you should never do that to strangers, especially because it's a horrible first impression.
Oh, can I just say add something to that
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
take it a little more personal?
Hmm.
There are two types of credibility. One is with somebody else, whether professional, personal, whatever, then you have a mega credibility with yourself. And then if you
Yeah.
follow the same concept with yourself, you will, I promise you, your self-confidence is gonna go off the roof. And number
Dig
two,
into that a
all
little
you
bit.
yeah, all of your negative thoughts will go away. And I
Yeah.
would love to dig into it because let's say I said to myself, and we all of us have this internal dialogue with ourselves 24/7. It never stops. And let's say Monday morning comes. I said by 9 o'clock, I'm going to get X, Y, and Z finished. I said that to myself. So if I finish that by 9 o'clock in a room in my office, if no one else sees it, I know I did it. Somewhere along the line inside of me, I'm going to be like, yes, I did it. I don't know, it's weird, but
Yeah.
all of us have done that countless number of times. Because what that will do is, let's say you said yes gesture, and make sure you do that, because that small victory is going to help you build another building block to move forward. And then next time around, let me ask you this question to you. If I said to myself, I'm going to finish something at X time, what's the likelihood of me actually accomplishing that or feeling like I can accomplish?
If you just did it, then it's a high likelihood. Yeah. And it works the opposite way too, where if I say like, I'm not going to eat this certain type of thing because it's bad for me, and then I do it anyway, then it's like, well, I told, even if it's not something you told someone else, you told yourself, and then you're eroding that trust. How could someone that maybe has been eroding that trust a lot and maybe self-sabotages a lot, or doesn't follow through with their own word for themselves, how can they start setting themselves on that right path? Because it's difficult maybe to make that transition when you feel like you can't trust yourself.
Oh my God, I love this. I love this human psychology, the behavior, because that's like one of my favorite topics. And I've spent so much time in learning about it, studying it, applying it, and all that stuff. So I absolutely love this kind of conversation. So somebody who has been on this negative path, let's just say, right? So obviously, if you think about it from the personal and mega credibility thing, if I'm the person who never lives up to my own word with my internal self, if I say something, the first thing I'm like, I'm not going to do it because I haven't done it in the past. Look at my track record, look at my results, right? So how do you flip that around? Give yourself a very small thing, what I call as a 1% increment. So let's say if you, which is I think nowadays on a digital age, everyone can do that. It's a very, very small thing. Let's say all of us, soon as we have a cell phone, right? Soon as somebody rings the phone or get a message, instantly be like, hey, I want to look at my phone. I don't know why, but we do. And that's the thing, right? So let's just say on a Monday afternoon, 5 o'clock, you'll say to yourself, for the next 5 minutes, I am not going to look at my phone. 1%, 5 minutes, anyone can do it. And then once you do that 5 minutes, and then Tuesday come for the next 10 minutes, I am not going to look at my phone. From 5 to 5:10. So those 2 wins will help you move in the right direction or go into the positive track.
Yeah, I love that. You got to start small. Sometimes we all have a tendency to think like, I'm going to, make this massive change in my life. And that's totally relying on motivation, and that will dry up really quickly. And then you'll end up failing.
Can I just say something?
And prove yourself wrong again.
Can I just say something about this whole motivational thing? I think the motivational is probably the worst drug people can take. The worst drug. Because no matter how much of it you have, you want more of it.
Yeah, it has diminishing results, just like any other drug too.
It never stops. You can have motivational, for example, let's say you get motivated. What is the hell is the point of motivation? Pumps you up, and then 5 minutes later, you're dry. That's like a fake motivation. People who are actually successful, they don't need motivation because their results, their work, diminish their motivation level because they know what they need to do and they just do it.
Right.
And it's all state of mind, but
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right, Mark, I'm gonna have to wrap things up. I really appreciate our conversation. I absolutely love what you have to say and your whole story. If people want to learn more, you have a really great blog and podcast. Where can they find all of that?
All right. So people who want to get in touch with me, they can go to markkumar.com. And for my podcast, just Google my name, which is Mark Kumar, and then add the word podcast. I'll be the first one to
Awesome. I'll add that all in the show notes down below as well. Thank you again, and I'm happy you're here.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.